Hello and welcome to the third session of day one of IFMA Tech Week 2026. My name is Colette Temink and I'm with Corp and I'm the co-chair of the IT community at IFMA. This is Tech Week 2026 presented by Schneider Electric. And we're going to continue the theme today of opportunities and consideration with AI in FM. And that includes today's session, which is being recorded, is titled AI for Project Management Optimization. And it's my pleasure to introduce James Waddell. Many of you may know him. He is also part of the IFMA IT community, and he's Chief Research Officer at Cognitive Corp, where he leads research and strategy and innovation focused on AI. And he also helps organizations understand how AI can move beyond just the hype and really create value for organizations with project management, operations, and workplace performance. And we're also fortunate to have Rachel Walls join us today as well. She's founder and CEO of the Bridge Group. It's a project management and workplace services organization where she leads teams supporting complex initiatives with Fortune 500 technology clients across multiple markets. So again, welcome, and I'm going to turn it over to James. Please, as a reminder, if you have questions, click the Q&A button at the bottom. If we don't get to them by the end of the session, we'll save them towards the end. We will try to respond via email and make sure you get an answer. So thank you for submitting those questions. James?
Thank you for that warm introduction, Colette. I don't know that I can improve upon that for myself, but I will endeavor as I set my share screen up here. Just one second. As Colette mentioned, I do work with Cognitive Corp. We're focused on the built environment, primarily technology optimization within the built environment, and more specifically for me, practical applications of AI within the built environment. I think one of the core things that we're finding right now, program project management is big on everyone's mind. And we want to explore the topic a little bit with a practitioner, with Rachel, on what AI is and could be in terms of project management. Rachel, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hello, IFMA. Really excited to be presenting to you today. My name is Rachel Walls, and I am the founder and CEO of the Bridge Group. As Colette mentioned, we specialize in project management as well as workplace services, and we are a diverse supplier as well. We are headquartered in the Bay Area and have locations across the United States and some key markets. And I myself have a background in construction project management, so I'm really excited about this topic today.
We're awesome. All righty, let's dive in. Let's first talk a little bit about what AI actually is in terms of project management. So first we have to talk about what it isn't. AI and project management is not autopilot. It's not doing project management for you. But what it is a tool to help the teams and the people on those teams primarily get better clarity, better speed to results with a whole lot less chaos, specifically around coordination of information and communication. And the one thought here is, and I can't stress this enough, is AI is not something that does it for you. It's something that helps you do it. Would you agree with that, Rachel?
Absolutely. We are not looking to replace a project manager or facilities manager. We're just trying to make the information more concise and easier to gather.
Super awesome. I mentioned program project management. There's some pain points, and there always have been pain points in particularly large-scale facility projects. So Rachel, from your perspective, what are some of the just general, not talking about clients, but just in general from an industry perspective, where some of our pain points at in project management?
Absolutely. I just think in general, construction projects, some of the greatest risks are the schedule pushing. One of the concerns about a schedule pushing is a business might be relying on that FDOB to happen on a certain date so that they can expand as a business. So that schedule push can have a real impact. Additionally, cost overrun throughout the project. We start the budget in one spot and it ends up costing something else at the end of the day. That's a major problem. as well as just general oversight of a project. We'll find that data will live in 10 different places, and it's hard for leadership to get a grasp on what's actually happening in a project. We could have a project manager update the reporting, but that reporting is also very time consuming as well, when they could be spending that time actually managing the project. Risks often surface too late, and sometimes when an organization is doing multiple projects, those lessons don't always carry forward.
Got it. Rachel and I had an opportunity to build an innovation platform, sort of, let's call it a PMO intelligence platform. And a lot of lessons learned, right, from that perspective. So here's some of the things that we know for sure seems to work, right? From a planning and scheduling perspective, can AI or large language models be used to help? I don't know, let's say there's a risk that surfaces, maybe it's related to procurement and something is delayed. How does that impact the schedule and the follow-on milestones? And overall, does it impact the delivery timeline of the entire project? Or is there enough material slack, meaning schedule slack, that can be used so that the final delivery of the project isn't impacted? Or how might you be able to do something differently to get that back? I mean, lots of what if questions, right? And that used to be pretty hard. You used to have to go to a pool planning session, sit in a room and have lots of conversations. But with the right large language model and the right platform, that becomes something that I won't say it's fairly easy, but it becomes something for the practitioners to be able to generate fairly quickly, sanity check it, and then take that to the pool planning session for everyone to get agreement, as opposed to lots of discussion on what could be. Some other things are reporting, just thinking about just weekly stand-up meetings. It can be difficult and time consuming from a project management perspective. You have to use the right template, it has to have the right information in it. You have to do all the calculations and insights to bring into the meeting. In an intelligence platform from a PMO perspective, and we call them like AI native, the platforms that we work on. They're AI native by their nature, because if you take large language models away from the software, it no longer functions, is one of the definitions. But having the ability to look through a large corpus of information, like the entire set of project data, so all the meeting notes, all the plans, all the deliverables, all the RFPs and the responses, appropriate responses, all of that, and then being able to consider all of that and all the latest updates and information from a reporting perspective is really what changes the game a little bit. Anything to add there, Rachel, before we go to the next slide? I'm sorry.
I actually would like to go to the next slide because I've got a lot to add, and I think the next slide will definitely illustrate that. So as James was saying, there are a lot of ways that AI can be used within project management. For this presentation, I thought it would be really helpful to focus on how it can help with cost and budget control. So some ways that it can currently be used is just real-time budget tracking. You've got a budget, and instead of waiting until month end to update the budget, it can do it on an ongoing basis. That would be a lot of work for a human being to do, but very easy for an AI to do. The AI can also create RFPs. Maybe some people on the line are already doing that. It can write a scope of work based on project requirements. Once you start getting proposals in from this RFP, it can compare the proposals against one another, put together a matrices so that you and your team can compare the quotes and decide what is the best fit for your organization. As the project progresses, it can detect variances in the costs and start to create a tracking log to see why the cost overruns on an ongoing basis, if there are overruns. And it can put together forecasting. So in addition to updating the budget in a real-time manner with actual numbers, it can look forward to see where we're going to land at the end of the day. And then it can also put together a budget narrative. Now, sometimes the costs increase over the course of a project, but there might be a good reason for it happening. Say a business makes a decision halfway through the project, it decides it needs such and such in a space. And so a business decision was made to accept those additional costs. It creates that narrative to make sure that at the end of the day, everybody knows what happened and why. Now, just to take things to another level, in addition to just cost and budget control. As James was alluding to, we have put together what we would call a project intelligence dashboard. That is basically a dashboard that oversees the project and provides status reports. Now, in the past, dashboards are reliant on human beings actually entering that information, which can be time consuming and takes project managers away from actually doing the work. What we put together is the AI actually ingests Google Drive folders or Dropbox folders or wherever your project information is being kept and creates a dashboard out of that so that leadership knows what's happening in the project without having to attend every project meeting. James, I'm going to turn this thing back over to you.
Awesome. You know, there's vendors that make statements, right? And I guess what I really want to say here is consider AI enablement as 3 stages, right? I think the industry is hopeful that we are in an autonomous phase where you just ask AI to do it and it does project management. And even if it could do that, we believe at Cognitive, and I think Rachel would agree, not to speak for Rachel, that that's something that should not be done. So can you versus should you, right? So our first focus is on rung 1, which is how can we use large language models and their reasoning capability to assist a project manager in doing things that would otherwise take an inordinate amount of time. And there's things listed here. Summaries, we mentioned reports, we've mentioned like stand-up presentations, weekly stand-up meeting presentations. Those can all be done very easily, very quickly, and very high quality and save time. The next thing is an augmented approach where the systems may propose an insight to the human, to the project manager, and allow them to decide if that's the right thing to take to the team as an alternative or as a decision or as an impact to the overall project. Large language models can do a significant amount of autonomous work. When it comes time to capital expenditure and for planning, that might be something you could consider, but absolutely always consider who you can hold accountable for those decisions and those impacts. And that's why we always say there must be a human in the loop. And it's something that we spent a lot of time in the platform that Rachel had mentioned to ensure that we didn't take away the human decision or the accountability of the people who are responsible for the capital expenditure / the project manager / the team that's implementing the spend on their decisions and their abilities. But rather what we wanted to do was save them time, give them better insights, and help them deliver that project on time and on budget. Let's talk a little bit about a day in the life of, right? So what could that look like? And by the way, we're purposely not showing this platform that we put together. The platform fundamentally has some commonality to it. But for all the engagements that Rachel's on and that we assist with, they're all bespoke. So each one is unique in its approach to the client. And the reasoning is that we have to fit into not just the overall corporate policies and procedures, but very specifically the people on the project. We need to make sure that we are empowering them in a way that they feel is appropriate in moving through that, helping them move through the processes. So let's just imagine that we need to intake on a new project. You got lots of drawings, lots of written scope, lots of leases, lots of information like that, and lots of dependencies. It could take a lot of time in a traditional platform for the project manager to ingest all that information and then re-enter that data into a project management platform. And then you would hope that there'd be no errors in that. And not just the client project manager, but now there's multiple vendors with their own project managers. There's multiple subcontractors with their own project managers. And the ability of them inputting that data with the same understanding is probably pretty slim. And we haven't left number 1 yet, right? Where we're still talking about the very first thing you have to do is you have to be able to take all the information and put it into a platform so you can generate insights from it. In an AI native platform, like the intelligence model that Rachel and I are talking about, All you have to do is connect it to your data source. And it could be multiple data sources. It could be 10 or 15 different Google Drives. It could be Google Drive and Dropbox. It could be Google Drive, SharePoint, Dropbox. It doesn't really matter to the large language model. It doesn't even matter what format it's in. It can be PDFs. It could be Excel sheets. It could be Google Docs. It could be anything. It takes a couple hours to ingest and to place all the information where it thinks it should be. And then there must be a human in the loop. This is where the project manager comes in and validates against their understanding as to what the large language model has decided is the project understanding as well. And then from there, everything starts getting a lot easier, right? So now that you've onboarded the project, you've ingested all the data that you need to ingest. There's no limit to the data that it can or should ingest. Then you start looking through the draft schedules, the draft information, approving those. Hopefully your charters are already done before you got that far, but maybe your project plans need to be optimized. Large language models can help with that. Certainly identifying risks, and I'm guilty of this, and I'm sure most project managers are. When you do a charter and you're doing project plans, you might put one or two risks just because you have to, but you don't really think your way through all the things that could happen and how you might mitigate that. And that's where a large language model in a platform like this really stands out. It's able to identify all the minutia as it relates to risks, and then to give you some insights into what might be happening for a risk to become real. And then when it does become real, oh no, this risk is real. There's an impact to the project. Now what do we do? It can help you ideate and come up with ideas on how to move forward with that. And I've already mentioned, so that's part of the status, and I've already mentioned report generation. The way that we manage that is called governed AI. And a few years ago, we released to the world, as part of a public license, something we call the Building Constitution. There's been some iterations since then, some add-ons since then, but fundamentally it's a set of rules for how a large language model should operate so that it's the highest quality artifact, meaning it's the highest quality output, quality as defined by, is it pure defensible in review? Is it factual, or is it an opinion? If it's an opinion, is it a real opinion? Meaning, is there anything in there that could disqualify that opinion? And if there's no data set that could be used to qualify or disqualify the opinion, can you point to a academic research source or do your own academic research to support your thesis of your opinion? These are all things that are baked into a governed AI model for project management. So when it generates an insight, it's not like going to ChatGPT and uploading a project schedule and saying, hey, line item 5 is now delayed by 3 days, give me a new schedule. ChatGPT will produce that, but it's an ungoverned AI in the world of project management, right? It's not following the rules that you would follow, nor is it going to give you a high quality, as factual as possible answer, or as optimized answer as possible, unless you have a governance model that sits on top of that. So using a chat interface can give you good answers, but it can't give you great answers. You need a platform for that, right? Every AI call in a governed model must be logged, it must be explainable, must be tied to a named human operator, an owner, right? An owner of that decision. That's what makes it governed. I love this next one. So how do you know that you're using AI and it's ungoverned? I keep reading about this, and unfortunately, KPMG is in the news this week. I don't think they were the last ones. I think it was Deloitte was the ones before that. Not to poo-poo my competitors, but KPMG yet again issued a report, a very factual thing about the state of AI and its impact it's having on certain segments. As it turned out, those were not facts. Those were hallucinated facts. And some of the citations were not correct. That is a really good example of ungoverned AI. You do not want that in your board report on your capital expense plan, where you're maybe spending a few $100 million doing capital improvements. You don't want hallucinations like that. So you must have a lot of thought and a lot of effort going into what it means for your large language model to be able to produce that. Now we can get into some details as to what that looks like, and we're going to in just a second. Let me pause for a second, make sure I'm still on track. Rachel, am I on track here still? We doing what we said we're going to do?
Yeah, no, beautiful. You're doing
All right.
great.
Excellent. Thank you. I always have to pause myself when I say too many words in a row.
Yeah.
All right. So here's where we are. There are three pillars that makes AI and project management very defensible. Number one, everything the AI does and all the decisions that it can present to you, all the options for decisions it can present to you are clearly explainable by the human who will be making those decisions. So we call that explainable AI, right? The way that that can be done, at least in our instance, the way it's done is every data source is cited, every reasoning process is discussed in plain human language. So I use this data. The data led me to this belief, and I did these things to come up with this opinion, and this is the thing that I think you should do based on that. So explainable AI. There must always be a human in the loop. You can have autonomous agentic processes so long as they're low risk and you don't need to hold anybody accountable on those, right? Those are perfectly acceptable. We strongly believe, however, particularly in the world of capital expenditure, that there must always be a human in the loop. One, just to sanity check things, because that's really important. But two, they have to be accountable, right? I mean, they just have to be. So a human has to be held accountable for these large decisions that are being made. Bias mitigation needs a minute or two to talk about. Bias can be both good and bad. And I bring this up a lot. I'm going to keep bringing it up. But bias in a good way. You wouldn't go to your marketing department and ask your marketing department for a financial report. Probably wouldn't be a very good financial report. And likewise, you wouldn't go to your finance department and ask them for sales and marketing process or for marketing communication material. That wouldn't be very good either, because these people are subject matter experts in what they do. Your marketing department are subject matter experts and very good at producing marketing material. So they're biased. They're biased in being able to present good material. So that kind of bias is very good. Uh, a non-type of good bias is when you overtrain a model. And Rachel led me to this one when last time we had a conversation. If you have too much information going into a model that says the same thing, and then you ask it for an opinion, it may not know to challenge itself on all that data that's coming in, and it may just represent, based on all the data that it has, that this is the right thing to do. Our platform, our intelligence platform, takes that into account. So it self-challenges itself to mitigate the bias in its data that it has available to it. So not only will it always produce the highest quality work result that we know how to produce, right, from a process perspective, it will always challenge itself for innovation in being able to produce that. So it may find many ways how to do it wrong and find one way that does it right. And then it'll learn from its experience, and it's supposed to start with the thing that it knows how to do right, but only before it tests for a few innovative ways. It'll do a really fast test to go, this thing's really simple and fairly low risk. So I'm just going to do it this way because I know it works. Or I might be able to find a better way to do that because it's going to produce better results. So I'll test that. And then at the end of that cycle, it'll give you the result. If it's a better way to do it, then it'll now take that as its starting point and then reassess the next time you've asked it to do something. You might now be thinking, well, hang on, James, what about repeatability in these reports? That's taken into account. You don't have to worry about that. The final result is the result that you need at the time that you need it in the context that it's needed in. The way that it's derived is what we're talking about here in terms of bias mitigation. Rachel, let's talk about humans in the loop.
Yes, let's do. So I guess the question is, what is it that an AI can do on a project, and what is it that a PM should do on a project? How do the two partner? So these are just some examples. The first example is with the schedule. So you could ask AI to draft the initial schedule, and then the PM would review the schedule and validate assumptions and set the baseline. Or let's say, for instance, there's a schedule slip. You could ask AI to model some recovery options and what the impacts are. The PM reviews the impacts as well as the options and decides on the recovery path. Another example is you might ask AI to flag the risks. And with the project intelligence model, it is constantly doing that, looking for risks on the project. The PM reviews those risks and decides what to do in order to respond to those risks. You could get the AI to recommend or review bids and recommend a vendor, and the PM would review that recommendation and make the award. And finally, generating owner status reports. So our project intelligence platform will ingest the information from the Google Drive or a Dropbox folder and put together the dashboard and the status reports. And then the PM will review the dashboard, make sure it's accurate, add judgment, and click send.
I like we got a little thumbs up. Whoever did that, here's back at you. Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Okay. So, thumbs up. Hey. Okay.
Yeah.
So we could have spent some time in the tool and shown you all the really cool stuff, but we really wanted to save that for a one-on-one with you guys. We believe there's always proof in the pudding, right? So meaning that you won't know this is real until you've had a chance to see it, and you won't know that it's right for you until you've had a chance to see it in context for the things that you have available. So I would urge you to reach out to Rachel or myself. We can have a conversation, particularly if you're in Silicon Valley. Reach out to Rachel. I think, Rachel, you guys do a work with just about every logo I can
We
think
do.
of in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
We do.
I would also say, for those of you thinking about it, at a corporate level, think about all of the projects from a capital expenditure perspective that are going on. And then think about, you don't give that to one firm, right? You have multiple project management firms. So how do you take the insights or the learning that's happening from those multiple projects and the multiple project firms and put them into best practices so that you have consistent improvement in your capital expenditure month after month or year after year? So there is a way to do that, right? And there is a way that you could have, let's call it a sort of tangential to your PMO group, this new type of intelligence that manages many different project managers with very little disruption, because really all you need is the data set and someone to the human to generate those insights and bring back to the PMO and then push those back out to the teams. So think in those terms. You might be thinking traditionally, hey, I have a big project. Be great to have this on it. Be great to have Rachel's project management team on it because they have these really cool tools and they do really cool stuff and it'll be low risk and get good money value. All that's true. But think a little bit more than that. Think about, wow, what if we had that across our entire capital project footprint? Rachel, I'm not going to read these because these guys can read this later, but I am going to ask you. Well, you want to add one thing before I ask you the question?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on that really the value in the tool, kind of like you were just saying, is to be able to detect trends across projects throughout the portfolio. So an example might be, let's say on the last 4 or 5 projects, you've had a key piece of networking equipment running late, and it's pushing the FDOB for every single project. That project intelligence tool will detect that, and then the project management team might decide to start ordering that piece of networking equipment 3 to 5 months earlier in order to get in front of that going forward. There's also ways to benchmark costs across projects as well, so that budgeting becomes more accurate going forward, and then to use the tool to value engineer as well, based on what's working on other projects within the portfolio. So that's where the real value is.
That's great. I am very tempted to start into a war story of projects and risks
There's a
that have
lot there.
become real,
Yeah.
but I'm biting my tongue not to do that. Right? Okay. Thank you, Rachel. Now allow me to ask you the question, right? What's the one thing you want the audience to leave with? They're going to leave with a bunch of things, but if there's just one thing that you wish that would stick with them or that they would do on Monday, what would that thing be?
Well, I think just knowing that AI is a tool to create clear visibility into projects without spending a lot of time chasing information so that people can spend time actually managing the work.
That's awesome. I think we have 30 minutes, and by golly, look at that. We got about 45 seconds left. We're nothing if not punctual, Colette.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to give that back to you, Colette, I think, for questions.
Terrific. Well, James and Rachel, thank you very much. It was really informative session, especially around project management. I think, James, you mentioned, right? Capital expenditure is really important, having that human in the loop, also understanding where the information is and the information that is being provided. So I think it was really helpful to really pinpoint specific use cases that people could think about with project management. So thank you both for that. Really appreciate it in your participation. So just a reminder for everybody in the audience, thank you for joining day one, but there is a day two. Starts at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. It's going to be kicked off with a session on facility guide to the next generation of meeting rooms in signage technology. It's going to be joined by John Wang. So please join us first thing in the morning, and thank you very much for joining today's session. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.